Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. And today we want to kind of talk about a little bit about builds in Project Zomboid. I've been neglecting this game for a couple of weeks. I was not in the mood, to be honest. The game is not perfect right now, you know, the build 42 is still developing. There are so many stuffs that need to be honed. Kind of hard to go back to the game, try it out. But we will be back, don't worry about that part. But for a fun thing to do, and it's in my opinion a very good thing to do, let's introduce some builds. Basically, and especially, I came up with two builds that I think work the best in build 42. You guys can tell me what else do you think is nice in the comments. That would be nice. So let's start. King of the Hill. Let's talk about the King of the Hill right now. The best build that I think was before build 42 and still is one of the best builds and occupations in build 42 is carpenter. When you instantly get this occupation, you have 1 points to spend plus 1, and look at the buffs you have. Carpentry 125% more XP. It's a buffer. Carving, maintenance, and short blunt. You already have everything you need packed for you in this occupation. The next build that I'm going to go to the builds, but first the occupation. These two occupations, in my opinion, are the king of the hill in build 42. Engineer, next one. You might think, why engineer? -4. That's a very bad start. And like carpentry and electrical, not very useful. The only thing useful for engineer is that you can right out of the bat build bombs. And especially since they removed Molotovs. Yeah, they removed that. If you don't know, don't search for it. They removed Molotovs. You can no longer build Molotov from alcohol and a piece of rag. And since the zombie population is increased, especially if you're playing on harder servers like apocalypse modes, your best chance, and especially, I don't know, you guys feel comfortable with the new shooting system. I'm not very comfortable with it. It's so dependent on your fear factors. So if you don't have any beta blockers, you basically can't use any guns. And until level 5 or 4, you are so useless even with the shotgun. And the grinding is more, they like reduce the XP you get from shooting, especially with shotgun. So shooting is not the best when it used to be. It was fun in build 41. It's not fun in build 42 in my opinion. So bomb is the way. And if you want to like get another occupation and build bombs, you need the magazine, you need the recipe for it. And yet again, where are the recipes? They're in the populated cities. You know, the bookstores. They are in some hotspots. And you might not be lucky finding it. I've played so much Project Zomboid in build 42. Like, I did 2 runs and just some testing runs. I couldn't find Firebomb magazines. The name is now Firebomb. It's not the Molotov. The Firebomb magazine is not that easy to get. If you're lucky and get it fast, okay, you don't need engineer. But in my opinion, that's why engineer is the second one you want to go with. I talked about it a lot, I guess. But I feel like it's important to let you guys know why I feel like it's a very important occupation. Because of the bomb. Solely because of the bomb. With the bomb, with the firebomb, you easily kill zombies. And there are so many zombies in new build. It's way harder. Take Riverside for instance. You can go back, watch my blacksmith video part 1 and 2. Riverside is packed with zombies. Not used to be like that. So engineer is the second one. Also, another thing that I like to discuss, never pick blacksmith. You see this metalworking? None of the required recipes for blacksmithing requires metalworking. They're going to fix it. Probably, yeah, it's a bug. You need wielding for for blacksmithing. So if you want to do blacksmith, get wielder, but like -6. That's a lot of minus points. It's hard to build around wielder. Mechanics is not that great. Others are not that great. Another one that I can squeeze it in is livestock farmer. Since this build is basically dedicated into you not taking up fights and try to survive more instead of fighting more. This is not a zombie shooting and killing. It's a zombie survival game. So you better like live in the suburbs, try not to get into the city. So livestock farmer is your way to go. You can be dependent on you don't be dependent on scavenging foods inside the cities. You can just farm and raise your own animals, farm your own crops, and they added so many crops to the game. So you're probably better off taking this one. Hell, I just even put this one in the second place instead of engineer. Engineer is the third. If you don't want to fight much, because since I'm a fighter, I like to fight much. In this game, engineer is my second to go. But yeah, the king of the hill is carpenter. Now let's talk about the builds that I came up with to make them better. Alright, now we talked about the occupations that I like. Now let's talk about the builds. The first build is carpenter. I pre-built it for you. Look at all these buffs. Beautiful, isn't it? Basically it's a mix of a builder and a fighter. So just like build 42 that you used to do that, building and fighting, you like let me give you an example. For example, police officer, even police officer. Look at that. Police officer has a very, very bad start for like it's not even recommended. Let me give you another like engineer basic or carpenter. Carpenter might be better. Look at all these buffs. Holy moly. Like that's a lot. Although they like removed some of those stuffs that I could add. For example, fast metabolism and slow metabolism were another thing in build 41. It's overweight, obese and stuff like that. That was the 3 points basically. So like compare it now. That what a monster you could build. Now compare it to this that I could like barely manage to make. So let's talk about the points. Thin skin. I know many of you are a fan of thick skin and think thin skin is so bad because, well, basically you have more chance to get worse injuries and all in all injuries. But the whole thing about a survival apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, a survival zombie apocalypse game is that you do not get caught and beaten and get like swarmed by zombies. If you do so, you're dead. I know, like, even if you're a veteran, there's a still good chance of getting jumped by a ninja zombie. Always happens. This game is ruthless, right? But again, like a veteran, when he or she goes to a fight with a horde of zombies, for example, first of all has a plan B when shit hits the fan. Always has an escape route. For example, a car parked nearby, and also knows what he's doing. When knows his character good. When he has high muscle strains, high exertion, that's the time to get out. So there's a less chance that he get caught or get beaten, and he's more alert. He always checks his hindsight. Yeah, you know. So thin skin and slow healer, these two are not noob friendly. But I'm taking in the factor that you are familiar with the game. You know what you're doing. So these are the basically 3 points for me. 8 3 points for me. I don't know about you guys. Another thing is conspicuous and clumsy. Since you're a carpenter, you probably are in the cities for your early game stage, and then you try to build outside of the cities and just go into the cities for scavenging. So not a problem. Your early game might be a little bit bumpy because of clumsy and conspicuous. Zombies spot you easier. Your stealth factor is greatly diminished. But again, like in mid game and end game, when you go to cities to scavenge, you're ready for everything. So you're well prepared. So not a problem in my opinion. You can come up with a better build without these. Probably tell me in the comments. Prone to illness unless you're starting your character dead in the winter, in the middle of winter. You probably have no problem with this one. 3 points. Weak stomach, always 3 points. Short-sighted. Now, a problem with short-sighted is that you can't use a masked protection because you have to remove your glasses. By the way, always wear glasses when you're short-sighted because your vision blurs like hell. They actually implemented short-sighted, like you actually feel like a short-sighted person. You can only see a little bit of distance in front of you. And everything is blurred. To hell. Blurred to hell, like I'm telling you guys. It's not pretty. So only downside of it is that, and also you're less effective with your ranged weapons. Like you get a sniper, for example, your weapon sight is less effective. You put a like sight on your weapon, it's less effective. It adds less range to your weapon, probably, from what I get from it. There is no wiki update for these skills, so I'm just trying to guess based on the things it says. The next one is slow reader. When you're playing in single player, basically you don't need fast reader because you can fast forward times. High thirst, they murdered this trait. It used to give much more points, but now it's 1 point, but still it's 1 point. That's why it's balanced here is 0. So water management is not that hard. Now let's talk about the good stuffs. Let's talk about the essential things that you get for every build. Dexterous and fast learner. These two are important always. You already know why. Basically a buff to all of your abilities XP gains, and also you're faster in transferring stuff when you have dexterous. Super important because you don't want to wait too much with your back against the opening and a zombie can jump you, so again that's a good thing. Now let's talk about the other stuff that I added. I added Mason because you're a builder probably when you take a carpentry occupation. Although with this build you can be a fighter as well. Like, I mean, look at it. Short blunt, long blunt, axe, all have buffs. Also 1 point to them. Less muscle strain. We'll talk about it. But the Mason is basically, I had like 2 points lying around. I could get cat's eyes or masonry. I took masonry because it's a carpenter, but you can just remove this mason and just put cat's eye. Cat's eye is very valuable too because the game got darker in build 42. Way more darker. Like, without light, it's so hard to see. So cat eyes might help you a little bit, but usually you sleep through the night, so might not need cat eye that much. So that's why I put mason there. Wakeful, always good to have. Less sleep requirement, although it will fuck up your sleeping schedule. Like after 5 p.m. your character feels sleepy. That's not good because you have to sleep early and then you wake up in the middle of night. And even with cat eyes, that's a big problem. But again, you can manage it and still have less requirement for sleeping. So it's a very good and valuable thing to have. Brawler, you already know that. I'm going to talk about a little bit of muscle strain. Muscle strain is so bad. We all know that it's so bad, so problematic. You can turn it off in your sandbox, but a true chat never turns off these things in sandbox. Only thing that you put to 0 is the zombie respawn, because you want it a little bit more realistic. You know, you kill a bunch of zombies and they respawn back. It's kind of like, yeah. So you guys already know about the muscle strain, and you already know that, or maybe you don't, the more weapon skills you have, the less chance you have to get muscle strains. So a level 3, for example, axe player is less prone to muscle strain compared to a level 1 axe player. That's that. So that's why I'm using the brawler. You can remove this, add baseball player and another, for example, 2 traits, level 2 traits. Or, I don't know, you can add a level 5 trait, for example, gymnast, nimble +1, and get buffs for nimble and light-footed. But my recommendation is brawler. I wanted to give your character a bit of more power in defending himself or herself. Fit and stout. The reason we don't put the strong and the athletic is that in build 41 that was a common thing to have these two, but now in build 42 you can't afford the 10 plus points that strong and athletic have, so you have to lower it. So that's why we go for the fit and stout. Gives you a little bit of buff in fighting, also your knockback melee weapons. Your knockback on melee weapons is stronger the more strength you have, and also you have more capacity. So that's the build for Carpenter. You guys can tell me in the comments, is it a nice build or not? You can actually remove short-sighted and Mason if you don't want to have short-sighted. You can play around it a lot, but that's the whole thing here. I feel like that's a good build. And this is probably the best build in the build 42 because all of the buffs you have. And let's talk about the next one. Alright, now let's talk about the engineer. I feel like this is a build that I tried real hard to make it balanced. Engineer is a little bit tricky. But I feel like this is a very good build. Although it might be a little bit more hard to handle your character, especially I added claustrophobic and also cowardly, these two. Basically I've added these two to compensate for the -4 starting points for engineer and have a little bit of more free reign to add a vehicle knowledge. But other than that, everything is the same. I only added the cowardly and claustrophobic. And instead of Mason, I added vehicle knowledge. And the reason I added vehicle knowledge, probably you want to hit and run with engineer because you solely rely on firebombs and bombs, in my opinion. But still, I gave you brawler for having more edge early game because you still need some materials for. I mean, firebomb don't need much material. You only need a bottle of gasoline and rag. That's it, and the knowledge to build that. I don't know what kind of knowledge you need to build a Molotov, a firebomb like that. You need a bottle of gasoline and a rag. Game, hello. But anyways, anything else? No, nothing. This is it. And for claustrophobic, You can actually add it to carpenter. So this is the build. Now I'm going to go to the carpenter, and I'm going to remove the cowardly, and I still have 3 points. I have the vehicle knowledge also. I can like add another, for example, I can like remove vehicle knowledge and add a level 6 one. For example, hiker or blacksmith. Holy shit, you can add actually blacksmith. That's going to be a lot of buff to your maintenance. Yeah, 75% to maintenance, which is going to be 100. Holy shit, add claustrophobic, guys, add claustrophobic. I forgot about it. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Add claustrophobic to your carpentry build. This is the bonus tip if you watched until now. If you watched until now, thank you. And also this is the bonus tip for people who watched until now. So you can add a level 6, a 6-point ability, or even if you're feeling good, you can take out Wakeful and add a level 8, like handy especially. No, not handy actually, because you don't get much more than 125. Hunter or wilderness knowledge. Wilderness knowledge going to be better, especially if you're willing to go into the wild. Look at all of these buffs. Holy cow, that's a lot of buffs. Or even better, you can add more to your fighting. You can add baseball bat player to baseball player to rise it up to 100%. Long blunt buff. That's very good. You can also have room. You have also room for another 4, which are all useless. So you can go for Wakeful and I don't know, maybe Cat Eye or Mason. Hell, that's a good build. Yeah, another good build. I like this one. A more fighting style. A more fighting style build. So yeah, that's a bonus build for you lovable savages out there. Now for the final build, the livestock farmer. Let's be honest, basically every single build that you try to build should consist these negative factors in. You maybe don't want cowardly if you want to fight much, but if you're building a character that is going to avoid fights most of the times and just stay out of the town, cowardly is a very good thing to have, because you're not going to fight much. But for example, if you remember, I didn't pick it for carpenter build because I like a more aggressive carpenter than a builder, because I had the luxury to do that. Had so many buffs as a carpenter. But as a livestock farmer, you don't have much buffs. You only have buffs in agriculture, animal care, and butchering. Nothing else. So I have to compensate for that with a very high demanding ability like handy. And the reason I'm going to start with the handy, the reason I put a handy here, you need carpentry for building your, for example, chicken coops, your butchering tables and stuffs. Carpentry level 3. So handy is going to give you a little bit of buff in carpentry. So when you watch the early game TV shows, some of them are carpentry, you get to level 3 easy, relatively easy, with like 1 or 2 shows. And also it will give you maintenance and carving. Both of them are very good, especially maintenance. Maintenance is always good to have. Again, stout, fit, fast learner, dexterous. I have this. I had 5 points, 5 more points to play with. I put wakeful and vehicle knowledge. I put vehicle knowledge there because that was the only level 3, 3-point traits required skill. That's the reason. Or I wouldn't put vehicle knowledge there. You can like remove it, put a level 2, for example, cat eye there. You're going to have one excessive point lying there, but that's not a big deal. But I wanted to balance it out. You can add like king cook. Nobody uses this skill. I don't know if you have a specific build order, you can use this. But other than that, I feel like that's a good build for a guy who solely is trying to focus on farming and animal raising. You know, you can't fight that efficient because I didn't put any brawler or anything there. You can do that, but you have to like get rid of handy, for example, and add brawler and another level 2, for example. Get rid of handy, add brawler and cat eyes, for example. That way you can balance it out. But again, I wanted to, because you pick up this trait, you want to avoid fights at the best, because you're independent basically in case of food and water. So what else do you need? You just need to, in order to survive, you need only these two, okay? So that's the build. Claustrophobic. I mean, the reason you put claustrophobic again is like your character gets scared in a small room. If you like try to sleep in a big room, in a big enough room, your character won't get scared, so you can sleep there. Or you can always sleep outside in the car. That's not a problem. You might get a little bit of neck hurts, neck aches, muscle sores on your neck, but that's going to be manageable, right? So claustrophobic is a way to go for me, in my opinion again. So I hope you guys liked it. I feel like I talked a lot, but I feel like talking about these individually for each and the reason behind them is going to give you more insight, you know? I mean, somebody just might ask himself why you put, for example, claustrophobic here. What was the reason? What are you Down syndrome? Just something like that. Because it will answer so many questions. So if you watched until now, you're a real chat. You don't know with your like and subscribe how much you help us small content creators to be motivated to make more of these kind of videos. And I hope it was informative. I hope it was helpful. If you have different ideas, feel free to show me my mistakes, anything that I said was wrong, even tell me in the comments. I shall listen to them if they're actually legit. Thank you again. See you guys.